Hello there. Today I'm going to use a Pigment Micron archival ink pigment pen to outline the shapes of pebbles. And if we've got time, we might do a little bit of the highlights and shadows. Hello, Raoul. It's nice to see you. How have you been? Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that, Raoul. I had noticed that we hadn't seen you in the art feeds, and you were in my thoughts, so I will continue to keep you and your family in my thoughts. Well, that always that's the sort of thing that can make it challenging to make art. So before I retired, I worked in my family's business, which was a flower shop, and one of the biggest categories of bouquets that we did were bouquets for and funeral arrangements, things like the flower casket piece that would sit on top of the casket, and easel sprays that are um, large flat bouquets of flowers that stand on a tripod type easel. So in my family and in my business, our answer for sorrow was to make something beautiful and commemorate the person with a creative work and something that was beautiful. So I think, for many decades, when there were deaths in the family, it just was that was the time. We would go to the wholesaler, we would buy flowers, we would go to the shop and prepare the flowers and turn them into these tributes for the person and for the families. I think I've always managed those kinds of occasions with creative work. Of course, it's easier when things are going well, but it also helps us when we've got sad days to confront. So I hope that you will find some ways to be comforted as you move through this with your family. I hope you're able to hang out for a little bit. I I do find it takes a few minutes for folks to find their way into my live feeds because right now I'm not scheduling them. If I know I'm going to schedule, I'll try to throw up a community post ahead of time, but things have been a little chaotic in my world this last couple of weeks, so I just start these lives kind of without a lot of notice. So, but if you're able to hang in here for a while, there's usually a small group of people and they're quite kind, and I'm sure you'll find some fellowship here. I'm going to work on the outlining for a little bit, and then I'll show you some of the blanks that I have been preparing this week. It's been a really productive week for making the backgrounds. A little bit scattered, so I'm gonna try to stay on task instead of chasing things around. Part of why I started doing this exercise was to help train myself to concentrate and just stay with one task for for a few minutes. So I can get kind of scattered. When I say kind of, I mean I can get really scattered. And then I find that have begun 4 projects and completed 0 of them. And those projects can be feed the cat, make a meal, work on some creative project, and sometimes my mind is just busy like a monkey that's had too much coffee. So I move around a lot, but I don't get anything accomplished. So I'm wondering if you were you close with your aunt and your cousin? Were they living in the same area that you live, so you could spend time with them? I have some relatives here that live in the same area, and then other parts of my family are they live in another state, and we rarely see each other. It is a gift when we can live close to our family members and get to spend time with them. And Oh, no. I think sometimes parents don't realize how important their blessing is to their children when their children are contemplating these big decisions in life. And everybody likes to be supported. And I think sometimes we understand our relatives are going to warn us about challenges I think we might face, but yeah, I'm so sorry, cousin had such a drastic reaction, and I'm sorry that your uncle wasn't able to have a different answer for him. So had your cousin and that part of your family always lived in Brazil? There's Liza. Hello there. Raul is with us tonight. He's had some devastating news in his family this week. He's lost 2 family members. And Raul is coming to us from Spain. I love how much of an international crew we get here. Liza is in the Philippines. So we're here talking about art and life. Indonesia. That's getting close to Liza's neighborhood. I'm going to switch up. My favorite width pen to use is this 03. But sometimes for the little rocks, I like to come in with the .01 and it has a finer line. So we can make littler rocks. New York and New Jersey. I'm on the other over in Oregon. I can have on a trailing branch of my family. We came from mostly places in Europe, but by way of Canada, and then moved to the United States. And my grandmother was one of, I think there were 9 children who survived, but I think there were 11 or 12 children altogether in the time when my grandmother was born. A lot of times there were infants in families that didn't make it if there was a rough winter or a lot of flu or polio struck her family pretty hard. But most everybody in my grandmother's brothers and sisters, some of them didn't have any children, but most of them only had 2 children, or my grandmother had 3. And sometimes when you have these really big families with a dozen kids, you'll see in the next generation there are lots and lots of children, but that didn't happen in my family. And I have one niece, and that's the only child. So it's my brother's daughter. So we're kind of the last little branch of our family that will have this last name, and that's just crazy how that can change in just a couple of generations down. But I think my grandmother expected to have lots of great-grandchildren, and each of her children had just 2 children, so she ended up with 6 grandchildren, but I think 4 great-grandchildren out of because a lot of us in my generation were not, didn't have kids. Uh-oh. Raul says he wants to redecorate his art room using gold and purple. It's beautiful colors together. Now, I won't hear any talk against bright colors. There's something very cheery about bright colors. Alrighty. I'm going to take a little break for this because I'm having trouble seeing where the little pebbles want to be, so That's always a good point to just set it aside for a few moments. And yeah, here's a couple of blanks I was working on. I do like to do flowers as well as pebbles. And I just like to do the flowers as a drawing, not so much as a mindfulness exercise. So I don't know. Purple, orange, yellow, and green? I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm joking. I do know. So I cranked through a bunch of these in the last couple of days. I didn't do any live videos, but anyway, we made our way through, and I have watercolor on these. I also have the watercolor pencil, and then I have the gel crayons working into them. So this batch has got a lot of paint and a lot of coverage, not much white paper showing through. But it'll be fun to trace out those pebbles. There's an orange one for you. It's kind of I have to say it's a lot of fun to have a big stack here, and to have quite an assortment of shapes and colors to choose from. So when I sit down to do a pebble drawing, I can find one that suits my mood, maybe one that's more somber, or more ethereal, or more colorful. There were a few of them in here. I don't think that's going to become a pebble drawing. I'm not sure what it will be, but it might get some more layers. It might just get tucked in just as it is. This was some granulating watercolor called Terra Verde that we did a swatch of the other night, and now that it's fully dried down, you can see how the pigment sort of settles out and it makes these textures that they're unpredictable, but they're also they can really add something to the painting. These ones are still getting ready for another couple of layers. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. Thinking I might have a couple of drawings that I've gotten done since I've seen you all. This one was one I was pretty pleased with how this one came out. Fairly colorful. I got the shadows and highlights tucked onto this one last night. And this one is this one needs to have its highlights and its shadows put into it. So it's not quite done, but it's getting close. We had a question here. Yes, I think you may have seen the larger ones that I do that are the 8x8s. And right now I'm working on an art journal that where those just go in as pages. So I I started doing these 3x3 ones. Actually, this one's like 2.75 by 2 3x3. Um, just so that I would have a, a small enough drawing that it could be done for the live streams. And I am not sure yet. I think I might get some of them framed, like put them 3x3 and get a mat cut with 9 windows. And either that or I might make a small art journal and tuck them into that. Um, it's kind of a it's to me it's a separate question because the reason I'm doing these is as mindfulness exercise. So I'm really uh, the the point of it for me is to bring the pen to the paper and to do the drawing and to quiet myself down and help build up my concentration and focus. And having a little piece of art is almost a byproduct. So um, I tend to just work where I am at and not think about the end result because when I do that, then I start being a perfectionist about well, what's the best size and what's the best color and will I be able to sell them? And then it ends up stopping me from doing creative work. So I'm really focusing right now on trying to just do the creative work, and then I will probably figure out some great ideas for what to do with these. I was thinking about doing a giveaway. I just uh, recently, just this last week, I reached 100 subscribers, and it happened faster than I thought it might. So maybe I'll do something like that for people that have post office boxes, because these would be very easy to mail out and just share them with people that way. I don't know. What do you guys think? I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I really like that," and so maybe somebody'd like to have one. I know. I love them too. I think I'm cautious about it because when you put a giveaway as a hashtag or if you put giveaway in the title, it draws in a whole bunch of chaos into your account that is always um, a little bit challenging to deal with. Um, they do get signed. And I give them a signature and a date on the back, and if I've done them during a live stream, I'll make a note about the live stream that yeah, like this one was done from a project that we did 3, and so I try to make a little notation on the back if it's something like when I sign this one, I'll put the title of today's show on it. So you guys thumbs up on giveaways then. All right. Wow. Roll says that his ancestors are Dutch, Flemish, Javanese, Indonesian, Hindi, Spanish, and oh, these aren't your ancestors. These are languages that you speak: Catalan and Portuguese. Mm, that's a wonderful assortment there. Yeah, yeah, and then and Raul mentions that if we do giveaways, then it brings the trolls, and it brings those scams of the people who are in the comments who say, "You've won. Contact this," and it's something that looks like it's legitimate, but then it just is the scam to try to get people something that I'm doing. I would rather just quietly in the back end or the middle of an obscure live stream, people know to contact. And this is, I'm behind in getting a web, what do you call it, an email address for this web page, and I need to do that so that we have a way for folks to contact me by email when they need to. But as you see, I've been playing with paints. And I thought about that, and I thought, oh, well, that's probably something I'll need to do down the road. And next thing I knew, there were 100 subscribers. So I've got pens. I've ordered more pens, and they are still in transit. 6 days my package has been sitting somewhere in Wisconsin. It was supposed to get shipped from Illinois out to Oregon, and I can't get any answers about why it's just been camped out in Wisconsin for 6 days, but supposed to come sometime this week, so I hope so, because I'm running out of ink. Alright, I think I found all the pebbles. My goodness. Javanese, Bali, India, German, Brazilian born. My goodness. You have a lot of stamps on your heritage passport there. Doesn't that... Paul says he's working on curry chicken with potatoes and basmati rice, and that sounds absolutely delicious. Yeah, my family most of them are kind of from this region and from this area where I live now. And they came from Scottish and French and English stock and French, but by way of Canada in like the 16 and 1700s. So I am pretty well settled and of the place I am at this point. Yeah, we're not connected with any of our family back in the old country, and I kind of wish we were, because it would be a good excuse to go travel and visit Scotland. Perhaps. I did have a chance to go to England, and I've been to France, which once was enough. Once was enough on going to France. I would go back to England, and I'd love to get a rail pass and ride around and see what there was to see. Good morning, Dan K. How are you doing? Getting ready to kick this week in the butt and I'm doing all right. Uh, we finally, after a long hot summer out here in Oregon, we finally got a little bit of rain this weekend, and there's a there's a big square vent that's right underneath my art table in the middle of the studio, and yesterday evening the heat kicked on for the first time in months, so I had warm air blowing up my pants legs. It was, um, when the heater first comes, I've got a heat pump, so there's not really like heating coils or anything, but it's like had that funky I haven't been working in 3 months kind of aroma, and I thought, oh, we must be heading into fall if the heater is finally turned on, because usually it just kind of blasts air conditioned air up my pants leg. And I'm grousing. Art supplies are still sitting in Wisconsin instead of here on my workbench where I want them. I think next time I'll just drive up, and I live pretty close to the Portland area, and there are several like national chain art supply stores up there, and they usually have a pretty good selection of the open stock sorts of things that I like. So my goodness, Raoul is using Scotch bonnet peppers and chicken curry. I don't know. Can a bite of one of those babies? a little bit, a little bit. Yeah, they seem like they'd just burn a hole right through your tongue. Nice. Do you guys watch that show, Hot Ones? Right. Dan, me too. I'm like, I don't. Who has time for that? We don't have time for this. I'm old. Hurry, hurry. Time's a wasting. But I don't know if you were here the other night when I was grousing about how I'd kind of been suckered through the website. Oh, if you order, I think it was a strange amount. It might have been like if you order $45, because I remember thinking, why not 50? That's just an odd price point, but it kept saying, oh, you qualify for free shipping. So by the time I got to checkout, I was really attached to free shipping. And of course, when I got there, then the question was, do you want to upgrade to 1 to 2 days delivery for $20? And I happen to know that the FedEx charge for 1 to 2 day delivery is $9.75. So no, I didn't want to pay $20 for that. So, and I also it felt like it was bait and switch to say free shipping, and then you find out it's like Pony Express level of 14 days. And I mean, I live a half a mile from an airport. There's no excuse for it to take that long. So anyway, they kick myself for it. Yeah, yeah. 5 is a lot of Scotch bonnet peppers. unless you're feeding, people. Isn't that stuff pretty hot? So there's an interview show here on YouTube called Hans, and they eat 10 spicy wings that go from like sriracha level or Tabasco level up to stuff that's like millions of Scoville units. And this Sean Evans is the guy who does the interviews, and he has celebrities and sports people and music people, and like he did an interview with Venus Williams where she's she just she's such a powerful personality. She didn't let that hot sauce slow her down at all. Anyway, he asks interview questions with every hot wing, and they eat these 10 wings, and they have answer the interview questions as it gets on, and they're like, these people are just losing their minds from the hot pepper sauce that's on these wings and trying to answer questions. And it's actually it's very entertaining, and the interview is pretty good. I guess this is what we get from YouTube. Probably couldn't make a television show out of that, but it's terrific on YouTube. All right, Dan K. Thanks for stopping in, and have a great day. A good start to your week, and as we say, don't take any wooden nickels. Oh, Lupita Nyong'o. Oh my gosh. That was a terrific episode. I saw that one. I like her a lot. She is a cool girl, for sure. When I was a kid, my folks had some friends who the they had immigrated to the United States. He was born in the Netherlands. He was Dutch, and she was from Indonesia, from part of it that had been a Dutch territory, and she cooked her traditional foods, and just so flavorful and so spicy. And when I was a kid in the '60s, we thought hot was like a bottle of taco sauce. But I I learned to love spicy foods. I spent a summer down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and eating green chili sauces, and oh my goodness, so delicious. But I can remember the first cup of chili I bought when I was in Santa Fe from a vendor. There's this town square in Santa Fe, New Mexico called Plaza of the Governors. Big empty square and then buildings around it. And there was a vendor there that sold traditional New Mexico chili, and I can just remember like my eyebrows sweating and my face just sweating, and only being able to eat like the top inch of the cup of chili because it was so hot. And then by the end of the summer, I would just be craving that spicy food. But yeah, anytime we go through major health things, especially where we've had to have anything like antibiotics that really change our microbiome in our gut, it can really change our capacity to tolerates the spicy foods. And I don't know. I don't know if you can you build back up again, or Just have to go more medium hot instead. Now, was The Crow a remake of the movie that Brandon Lee was making? Or is it a new screenplay? I don't usually go in for scary movies. I mean, I've watched them, but it rarely just go, I think I want to find a scary clown movie. Oh, okay. Sometimes when I really like the colors of the pebbles, it's just about all I can do to put that white over that color because it's so beautiful. But I know that the highlights and the lowlights are needed to give that 3D effect. So, so Raul says that good scary movies are either Indonesian, Filipino, or Malaysian horror movies. I'll, t- I'll take your word for it. When I was a kid, I used to really love it's not exactly horror movies, but the Godzilla movies, kind of the big monster movies, which I found pretty scary as a kid. And the foreign produced ones were always way better than the US produced ones. What was it? I was watching something the other day that I didn't expect it to be scary, and then something gave me a jump scare, and I'm not joking. I had to go take my heart medicine because it was, I don't know, it was just something, I don't know. I think it might have just like been a fish popping out unexpectedly, and I just didn't expect it, and or a cat video. It was just something that like I just was giving myself a lecture because it wasn't really. I don't think it was made to be scary. It just kind of caught me off guard and startled me. So I'm not sure if my heart could take watching an actual horror movie, especially if it had a lot of those calculated jump scares in it. That's a that's a young person's hobby. Mm. I grew up watching films like Creature from the Black Lagoon and things that people today probably wouldn't think were very scary at all. And the Body Snatchers, the classic. Did you ever see the Body Snatchers? Oh, Stephen King does write some absolutely creepy and scary stuff. I like this palette, but it is just absolutely childproof. There we go. So I just now am recalling, I think we had a question about whether or not I had used any metallics, and yes. Whether or not I can get that to show up on camera is a whole other question, but I have used some touches of some metallic paints in these rocks, and I like the effect quite a lot. I just used touches of just simple metallic watercolor paints out of this palette to just bring a little bit of wash on the highlights, and they're a lot of fun when you've got the little painting in hand. But again, I tried to take some video of it, and it didn't show up terribly well, so But there's a little bit of metallic in this shadow that I'm gonna lay some of this in here. So I'll let this dry down and then I'll come back in after it's dried with just a brush with just water on it, and I'll lift some of this out so it looks kind of chunky and funky when it goes in at this stage. But just a touch of water will soften it, and then we'll be able to see all the colors that are in the pebbles. So this stage it's a little bit of can be a little bit alarming to see the dark color go on there, but sometimes you just have to trust the process a little bit. So we know that about these pebbles. We certainly, almost at all of the stages, we see there's sort of an ugly duckling phase, and then a couple steps later, it starts to look like art. So, what language did you speak as a in your household growing up as a child with all of those influences? I think of Stephen King and R.L. Stine as being English authors, but I know they must be translated into all kinds of languages. And like how you put English was an obligation. I think there were many, many cultures that certainly probably felt like English was an obligation. They certainly did colonize the heck out of the world. Heck, they colonized America, so. I studied Spanish in school for about 3 years, but I think the American public school levels of language are not particularly Like, they don't push the students very much, and the vocabulary is fairly limited to, that good old Donde está la biblioteca? Like, questions you never need to know while you're out and about traveling. But it was enough that, um, and Spanish is got a lot of similarities to Italian. So when I was in Italy, I found that I was able to understand an awful lot of um, the spoken Italian. And after a couple of weeks in Austria and Germany, I was actually able to understand quite a lot of spoken German too, which is quite different from Spanish or Italian. But I think studying any kind of a foreign language increases our capacity to understand. So, studied in Europe first and traveled as much as I could, went as many places as I could. Every time school was out, I would head to the train station and see where I could go. And I always just tried to learn, of course, please and thank you. And um, then I would I would try to learn. May I please have one of those, or one of these things, in whatever language. Because most of the time you can get by just by following somebody else. Like if you're in a bakery and you can indicate, may I please have one of those? And, they'll take it out of the case and you can exchange your currency and get your cup of coffee or your breakfast roll. And as long as you give a smile and say please and thank you, that is enough to get you a meal almost anywhere you are. So now what I'm doing is brush, and this is a synthetic bristle, so it's a little bit stiff. So I'm just coming into that white paint. I want that highlight to be much more subtle instead of just a slash of white across the top of the rocks. So I'm lifting some of that pigment out. And I'm also working the highlight into the underpainting a little bit. And that helps give a so it needs to dry down quite a bit more before I come in and work it with the water. I get a better effect if I give time to dry down. So I'm gonna wrap up here for today. I want to thank everybody who came in and spent time with us, and thank you for being kind to one another and supportive in chat. Those of you who are struggling, know that I will keep you in my thoughts as we go forward into this week. Take time to take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. If you can take a bit of time and make some art, I hope that you're able to do that. I appreciate everybody who stops in, everybody who's subscribed, and I hope that you'll join me and join the other folks in chat the next time that there's a live stream. Goodbye for now, and thank you again.